Okay, so there's a couple things we'll cover today. I only put one thing in our chat, but so we'll start with gut protocol, reintroduction, what that kind of means, what it looks like, how you do it, or how do you go into maintenance if you're not going to reintroduce. And then we'll also talk about if you've been hearing the buzz that Beachbody's name change. Some of the things we've been talking about lately is eat dessert every day, what that means, how that works, and just kind of what's coming down the pipe. And then we'll, go through any labels or questions or anything anyone wants to discuss. Okay, so let's start gut protocol. So we're in the week 4 of this group this time. And so this is the time when you can say, yeah, I think I want to reintroduce some foods just to see where my sensitivities are. And maybe I still want to continue with gut protocol foods after this, or, something to that extent, or maybe a combination. Maybe you go back into portion fix, but you're still eating more gut protocol like foods, right? Some things you found that you love. Or you could reintroduce, go fully back into another program, into no program, whatever you plan on doing, right? That's your options are limitless. So as you're reintroducing, you want to try one thing that so if you're reintroducing, I believe the order was gluten, dairy, corn. She doesn't ever want you to reintroduce artificial sweeteners, and so then alcohol. So I missed something in there, didn't I?
Soy.
No, that wasn't one of the ones we cut out.
Oh.
Gluten, dairy, corn.
Corn.
Yeah, I said dairy, gluten, dairy, corn, and then alcohol, but there's something else in there, isn't there? There's 7. Okay, we'll come to it. We'll figure it out. Anyway, you're going to, so gluten, she wanted you to do gluten first, then dairy. Gluten, when I mean like a single simple thing, maybe it's some whole grain pasta, right? It's not, let's introduce a pizza. Because you're introducing multiple things. You want to keep it as simple as possible, but also, let's say, off the portion fix list so that it's a good, nutritious option. And when you introduce it, you have it in that meal, and then you wait 3 days, I think it is, until you have it again. So it's a slower process because your sensitivity wise, like if you're really reactive to it, you'll probably feel it, pretty quickly, but you may have a less reactive, to something. So you want to give it a chance to see, is gluten really an issue? Do I have a lower sensitivity? Is it a higher sensitivity? Am I totally fine on it? So what you'll do is you're just going to kind of watch for certain things, right? Like how your gut is feeling, how, that you can use your poop chart to see how things, we haven't even talked about poop very much in this group. I'm just realizing we talked about it a lot in the first time we went through this, but there's all kinds of things where you're looking to see any differences, how you're feeling, brain fog, nausea, any kind of rashes, skin issues, acne, all of that kind of stuff. And so as you're slowly introducing, oh, thanks, Bev. Yeah, there's a food tracker worksheet. So that you can go through and say how things are going for you and track it. So you go gluten, right? That's going to take a couple days, right? And maybe if you feel, maybe you want to introduce it one more time if you think gluten may have been an issue for you, just to see what's going on. And then you'll add dairy. Again, you're adding it separate from the gluten. You're adding it on its own. So you'll want to pick a dairy that's simple on the list. Greek yogurt's a dairy, right? So you could do some cheese, but you're not necessarily introducing that thing with gluten too, right? So you're just trying to do them individually, see how things are going. And then you are free and clear to know, right? This worked, this didn't work, and start to resume whatever plan you're planning to do. All right. What did I miss on reintroduction?
Highly processed soy is number 4.
Oh,
goes gluten, dairy, corn, highly processed soy, alcohol, and then artificial sweeteners, even though
You really shouldn't
Yes.
add those back in. Yeah. Just don't do it. Okay. So then after you reintroduce, then, then you're into whatever you want to do. Now, if you're thinking of doing maintenance or you like the gut protocol plan, at some point, Autumn recommends doing the reintroduction, even if you like, maybe you want to do another 4 weeks of just where you're at because you're feeling really great and this is working really well and you're very satisfied with where you're at. Feel free to do that, right? Or feel free to also just take it into a maintenance phase, which means you get a little bit more sugar. You can have a treat swap for some alcohol in your week. And I think that's it though. You're still keeping the main things out. You're just have a little more leeway with that sugar and treat swap. And you can do that also for like the next 4 weeks and then reintroduce, right? So the options here are, but at some point you kind of want to find out, do I have a sensitivity to something that I've taken out? So you do want to reintroduce at some point. Feel free to do it as, slowly as you want. Maybe this time you're just going to take a couple days, add some gluten in, see how it goes, and then continue with your gut protocol. And then maybe next time you'll add dairy, right? It's really, you can kind of make up how you want to do it and how you're feeling. I personally will be, I like to think of it as I'm going to be eating the same way I've been eating. There is going to be a meal here and there that is not necessarily gut protocol 100%, right? But I'm going to, for the most part, and I would say for me, it's probably more like a 90 to 95% of the time, I'm just going to be eating the same foods I've been eating and eating, things that I know work well for me. I really enjoy having beans be reds and not yellows. And, some of those other differences that we've had, and just the fact of doing vegan proteins mixed in with meat proteins, because I find it really hard to get all the meat proteins in if that's my only option. So all those kinds of things. Do you guys have any questions about that, about maintenance or reintroduction? I think Sandra and Mariana, you guys are the only ones that are really, kind of coming out of your first 4 weeks and then into this part. So.
Oh, that's cute. You think I've been able to really stick with it. It's been a total mess over here. I'm doing the best I can, though. I will say, I was thinking about this the other day, actually, about the whole program and everything. And the one thing that I have learned out of the past 4 weeks is that it doesn't have to be perfect, and that I can strive to achieve, to eat meals that are gut protocol approved while working toward following the entire thing as is, if that makes sense.
100%.
That was a struggle that I've had that struggle for a very long time of whenever I do a program, I do it exactly to the T and I am perfect and there's no room for any shenanigans or going off and doing something different. And so I've really worked to find grace and kindness for the past 4 weeks during this whole process.
I think that's so important, because the other piece of that is giving yourself grace during this time. Is I feel like you'll be more likely then to have do it more, right? It won't be perfect, but you may keep upping your percentage of how often you're picking these more nutritious meals or gut friendly meals and things like that, because you're not just well, can't do it, didn't do it, so all done.
Exactly. That's something that I've noticed, is that while we're rounding out and heading into the maintenance phase or phasing off or whatever, I want to continue to keep doing it. Actually, I'm traveling this weekend and I'm back Sunday evening. And so I'm looking forward to getting back into action on Monday and picking up where I left off and striving, because I won't have as much travel. Mm-hmm. And the election will be ending soon. This is your PSA. Please go out and vote for the love of God and everything that is holy. Go vote.
Go vote.
So I'm looking forward to doing that. And as you're right, Deanna, I do plan on continuing forward and following into the gut protocol and then figuring out how I can do a maintenance once I've actually completed a full round.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Sandra, how's it been going for you?
I'm far from perfect. I'm trying to put in more veggies and stuff. One thing I've done probably 95% job though is keeping the cheese off of everything.
Yeah.
Which is hard
and
for me.
That's hard. That's hard because
And
you like that condiment, right? Essentially.
Yeah, especially when, I mean, I know I have an allergy to it to begin with, but that's one thing I've strived to do. The gluten I've done, pretty well. I'm probably about the same or maybe 90%. So it's just more, I mean, I tried doing this before, but it's just, I know I'm going to keep messing up, and I just keep, every day it's like, I'm starting over without telling myself I'm starting over. It's just like another day. I'll do better. Just keep going. I know certain things I can't add back in.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I have the cheese, I have reaction to it. So, when I've had the cheese, when I've had gluten. So it's just working on trying to get rid of that.
Yeah. And do you feel like, is there anything you found? I know the big thing for me was it's like, that's a nice fat that you feel satiated with, right? So like in places where I would have had cheese, like say a chili, then that's where I stick in an avocado or something like that, where you're still getting something kind of fat and creamy, but it's on plan, right? And I don't know if you found that kind of mix of how you can sub.
No, and that's the thing for me, it's hard. Some days it's like I can have the same thing over, say 3 different days or whatever. And 2 days I could be perfectly satisfied with whatever. And then I'll get a day where it's like nothing satisfies.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, it's playing with stuff and finding what works and what doesn't work. Especially I noticed over the last few years with trying to change my eating, and like even the last time with gut protocol, it's finding when I'm starting to take stuff out, I'm finding more and more things I'm actually have reaction to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like even eggs, I have times that I have issues with it.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
I have to be careful with my beans because it just reacts weird with my body. I love beans, but it's one of those things. Am I actually having reactions to it or not? I'm like that little bubble girl. There's like nothing I can eat anymore,
Well, and you may find it's a matter of healing to then be able to have those things too, because your body might be in a state of it's been out of sync for a while. Right. Mm-hmm. And so then it's just reactive to a lot of things. And then it's like you hone it in, work on what you've got, and then maybe you can add those things back in. I've been out of eggs for 3 years, and I kind of wonder if I can add them back in at some point. I don't know, because sometimes they smell amazing, but I don't necessarily, it's not like I feel like I'm missing out. So I haven't been tempted to like feel that way. So I don't want to like add them back this yet.
I get mornings where just the smell of frying eggs, it's like, oh, I can't even eat it.
Right.
Or it's like, it smells great, but I go to eat it and it's like, oh God, it's making me sick. Yeah. So it's playing games with the stuff where it's like, okay, I guess sometimes I can eat it, but it's one of those things I can't eat it every day.
Yeah.
Or I can only do hard-boiled eggs, mixed in with like tuna or something. It's really weird, but I just go with the flow and see what works.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's what this is all about, right? Like just figuring out those places where you can make a little tweak, like maybe this works, this doesn't. I can, sub in here, do this.
But I made, let me see. We've had visitor for the last 2 weeks, so things have been kind of thrown around. But before she got here, I actually made the taco meat with the cauliflower, like everybody said.
Oh, yeah.
And actually my brother even liked it.
Nice.
He's like, I like this better than our regular taco. So, I mean, we made it the same way. It's just, he liked it, but it just did something to change the flavor where he likes it better now than straight taco meat. So
yeah, it's such a great sub in. I mean, cauliflower rice can just become anything, can it?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I wanted to ask a question.
Oh,
go ahead.
I was just going to tell Sandra that it actually makes sense that when you mix the 2 different proteins together, that your body is able to accept it differently. Actually, it could also be the addition of the fat too. But because when you mix a protein with another, when you mix one food item with another food item, the protein actually changes, and you're sensitive to the protein in general that is within the food that you're sensitive to. That's usually the thing that triggers the sensitivity.
Okay.
So, but, and that's why, like, there are some people that will be able to like eat pizza, but they can't just have like cheese.
Oh, okay.
And it's because it literally changes the just the way that the body it changes the way that the body receives that protein, because it's a different, it changes its, I guess, molecular cell make. I'm really not exactly sure how it does it, but I mean, I remember when we were researching stuff for my younger son, and but I mean, he was very reactive to dairy, like extremely reactive to dairy. So that was one of those things. And he craved dairy. Cheese was his favorite thing, like ever. He would eat every type of cheese that he could possibly get. And so that was a very hard thing for him to like break up with. And for many years he was still using vegan cheeses and stuff. But actually, since we started doing the gut protocol, like forever ago when this started, he has only had vegan cheese like maybe a handful of less times, because he was finding that it was just aiding in like his skin to break out more. Because I mean, because they're not like clean, the vegan cheeses. They're full of other stuff. I mean, we did our best to get the best ones, but you know, there's I mean, even like a lot of them are very oily in texture. So just imagine that coming out your skin. I mean, it's got to go somewhere. It's got to come out. But yeah. And Deanna's right. You can get to the point where like you've cooled your gut down so far that your body is able to like your gut is able to heal itself, and to a point where you can possibly reintroduce something that you may have been, you know, more on the slightly sensitive side to, because you might be like just in a really high reactive state right now where a lot of different things are bothering you. But as you heal further, you'll be able to have a lot more. Like we've been able to reintroduce little bits of things. So,
and I have this long list of stuff I'm not supposed to have. So
yeah,
well, I'm allergic to mold. That's why I can't do cheese.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so you may not ever be able to do it, but you may also, because again, you may get to a point where your body has healed itself enough to deal with it.
Yeah. And it sounds like it'd be good to know, like, if you can do combinations of things that you still want to do, and seem to work for you, like eggs with tuna, right?
Right.
So like maybe make a note of like those things that, you know, seem to work fine and you feel fine on.
And for me, like I actually have reaction to regular eggs. Like if I regularly eat just regular eggs, then I will have issues. But if I have organic eggs or like farm raised cage, you know, that aren't getting whatever they're pumping those poor little chickens with, that put out the little white eggs and are the cheapest ones to buy. But if I get the higher grade eggs, then I don't have issues.
Okay.
So, and I get like skin issues. And it's the same thing with chicken too. Like we have to buy a higher grade chicken that doesn't have a lot of the crap that they put into chicken, or my hands will start to break out, and my hands will even burn just cutting the chicken.
Ooh, wow, that's fascinating.
Huh. It's not fun.
We have a hard time even with chicken though lately, because it's just like, it seems like whatever they're doing with the chicken, it's like even when you make it, it's like tough.
Yeah.
It's like abnormally tough lately. It's like, where did we get this chicken from?
Right.
How much did we pay for it? You know?
Yeah.
And then you end up wasting it. So
yeah. Yes, I feel you. Even our other I just noticed one of the breasts tonight that I was cutting up was looking a little weird, but it's like, I don't know. Every once in a while you get one that looks a little strange.
Yeah.
Like the color is just weird or something. It's like, why is this one got like a white hue to it? I'm like, I don't love this, but.
What was your question, Jess?
Well, I Beverly kind of touched on it a little bit. I'm curious why whenever we take out these foods and then we reintroduce them, why are we so sensitive to them? Like, I feel like I don't want that to be a deterrent for some people, because like, if I would have known that now I can't have pizza without having stomach ache, I don't know that I ever would have like stopped having that. I don't, you know what I mean? And I'm not like,
yeah, I do know what you mean. And I guess that my question is, did you react to a lot of things when you reintroduce them? One is question. And two, like when we're talking about pizza, like there's a whole gamut of the run, right? Like I can go to a brewery where they make their dough and it's good. I can go to Papa Murphy's and I don't feel so good on it. Right. So then there's that thing too. What's your selection process? How real are the ingredients that are in that thing that you're reacting to? You know what I mean? Because I feel like I came out of this, and while I had a reaction to soy, it really answered a lot of questions for me. So it was in a good way, but then I didn't have reactions to any other things. But I do like to stay eating gut protocol because I just feel different on it. Mm-hmm. So there's that too, right? There's the reactivity. There's also just how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. And then the food options.
No, I think you're right. I think I also probably didn't reintroduce, entirely the way that we're supposed to. I did, do it slow, but I was like, okay, it's been 3 days. I feel okay. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to have something else. I don't know. I like food. It's my problem. But I was curious about that. I've thought about that for a long time. Like why it's kind of like one of those things, like when you lose a bunch of weight and then your stretch marks are actually more pronounced than they were when you were maybe a little pudgier. No one tells you that.
Yeah. Or you have the loose skin. Like nobody really talks about how you're tucking that into your high-waisted pants.
Yeah. Right. So it's just those things you don't really talk about much, but I was just kind of curious what the science was.
Well, and I think you kind of have to look though, like what I said before is like, what are the food choices you've gone back to? Right. Because if it's going back to more processed things, that's a different reaction than going back to real food and having a reaction, because there's so many things that are unseen. And I feel like I'll give you a good example. Last night we went and got some takeout, and I ate way too much because I was like, I had not eaten enough all day. And then it's like, I went for it. Right. And I had just felt like a sloth since then. And it's like the food choices were fine. There was nothing in it that was reactive, but the overeating made me feel so blah and just like, ugh. But similar to what I would feel like if I had had soy. Mm-hmm. So do you know what I mean? So it's like trying to figure out what you're really reacting to, or is it going back to some foods that just maybe aren't great options?
Yeah.
Right. Or quantities. Mm-hmm. I've learned my lesson. Having lots of water today.
Well, and I think the reason why we have the reaction once we remove it is because we've removed it and we've given our body time to get rid of the need to cope with whatever you have been eating. I mean, if you think about it, like a lot of us have been eating things that, I mean, since we were little and we weren't able to talk, we weren't even old enough really to know like, oh, this is bothering my stomach. This is causing me to have this type of issue. So we may have consumed those foods without realizing the response that we were having. And our body, as we're designed, will just push us through. I mean, that our bodies are designed to keep us going, to keep us moving as best as it possibly can. And then in turn, what that looks like long-term are, all of these side effects that, we see with inflammation, that come with inflammation. And so, that's pretty much why, because you've given your body a break, and then it's like, oh crap, why'd you put that back in there? And it tells you, but you may not have noticed the first time it did that. Cause I know for me, I can't even imagine. I definitely had plenty of stuff as I was growing up.
Well, but that's what happened with me with the gluten is, I would even go to the doctors and I would complain. And when I finally got allergy tested, it's like, I would have a headache after I ate. And it's like, I'm telling them I had a sandwich, and I can't even eat a whole sandwich, regular 2 pieces of bread with, meat and cheese. And they're like, oh, it's the cheese. And it's the lunch meat because you have the allergies to the molds and stuff, and the cheese has the molds. And it turns out the biggest culprit was the bread. Not to say the other stuff doesn't give me some reaction, but before I realized it, 30 plus years, having that gluten every day, it's like, yeah, after I ate it, my tummy didn't feel good. I was bloated. Always the acne, every imaginable thing you can think of, until I took it away. And then it's like, my body dealt with it. I still was feeling icky from it. But once I took that out, you just realized just how bad my body was compensating for it.
Right.
Totally.
Like you realize how amazing you can feel. And it's like, holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but even then it's like, before it would make me icky, but now it's, if I start introducing a little too much gluten, it's everybody better clear the bathroom, it's just not pretty, because it literally will make me sick having it. So it's like my body dealt with it by just giving me that icky pain in the stomach, but now taking it out and enjoying a little too much of it, it goes, way beyond what I ever felt before.
Right.
But that was my body compensating.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe people can power back through and get back to an uncomfortable spot. And
no,
but so most of us don't want to do that, because it's like, yeah, that makes me feel like crap and I recognize it. So I'm not going to do it again.
The feet pain, the joint pain, I don't want that back. I like being able to walk and run,
Yeah, see, I think that's the other piece of it. When you add it back in and you don't feel great, if it's something you really hold on to, let's use pizza, since we're already talking about pizza, right? If it was something you really hold on to that you feel like makes your life better, right, in your mind or whatever, but does feeling better mean more than having pizza? And I get just what you say, that like, you're like, maybe I just didn't want to know, but and it's like, then you have to figure out, and you also have to kind of figure out, like, why am I so attached to the pizza? It's kind of like alcohol, or like coffee, or like anything that we identify with as something that we should be able to have, or we have to have. And then you kind of have to kind of look at that and say, okay, is this really this important, or is how I'm feeling more important? And what does it matter? Like, what if I don't ever have pizza again in my life? Is that a tragedy, or is it fine?
Yes.
If it was chocolate, yes.
I'm just saying, like, that's where you have to figure it out, right? That's the conversation you have to have with yourself, because it's like, what does happen if you don't ever have that food again, or you can't have that food again?
Okay, so I have a question, and I'm gonna try to like sort through my thought here, right? Okay, so here I am eating a ton of vegetables, right? And then all of a sudden I'm off of the gut protocol program, but I'm just kind of skating through life, and I decide to eat pizza. Okay. Well, I don't overeat it, but I'm still eating, 2 pieces, whatever. It's probably fuller, makes me feel fuller than the vegetables. So is that the reaction that we're talking about? Is that like you said, you overate yesterday, or are we really having a sensitivity reaction to it?
I think that's a great question. Yeah. Jess, do you think that like you're talking about an actual sensitivity or a,
Yeah, I think, I know for me, like if I have too much salt or pizza's quite salty, I actually get like cramp feelings, like menstrual cramp feelings. I've recognized that for a really, really long time. And even I think for me, it just comes in different forms. Sometimes it's kind of brain fog. I just feel off. And then, yeah, definitely I notice cramping or just different, like Sandra said, joint pain and things like that. Like you all probably saw my Amish donut story a couple weeks ago. My body hurt for like 2 weeks after that, partly because it was like once I had the sugar, all I wanted was more sugar. And so I was kind of on this like vicious spiral for 2 weeks. But I was like, wow, it was so eye-opening to see how many aches and pains I had. And it was just weird. And I kept talking, my husband's a huge sugar junkie. I mean, he like looked for a candy bar when he got home earlier. And he's always complaining of his body hurting. And I'm like, please stop eating sugar. And he drinks Mountain Dew. Like, oh, it grosses me out. So, but for me, those are my sensitivities. I'm sure. I mean, swelling, like salt for me is so huge. I love salt, but like my ring won't come off. It's just crazy.
fascinating.
Well, my brother.
Well, I know, like, go ahead.
No, my brother will tease me. It's like the second I eat gluten, it's like you can look at my face and I literally start swelling and my face turns red. And he'll be like, you ate gluten. You can instantly tell.
Yeah.
And that's how bad my allergy is to it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy that your doctors didn't recognize that. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I was just saying what Marianne said, sugar is super addictive. We actually did a great call about it because Sean Stevenson did a whole segment on sugar and how messed up it's really integrated into our world, the history of sugar, how it really reinforced slavery and how it has stuff to do with our stock market and how it's just totally ingrained in everything. But then also the physical changes with it. But I think I wonder, Jess, maybe then you get to shift to homemade pizza. Maybe I'll get a pizza oven at home and you get to have your Saturday night pizza together where you make it together and that's a new date night and it's not going out and getting the pizza and maybe that works better, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, it doesn't mean everything's forever. It just means maybe it gets to look a little different. And maybe
I have a really amazing recipe for a gluten-free crust that smells like Auntie Anne's pizza. Or I'm sorry, Auntie Anne's pretzels. It smells like Auntie Anne's pretzels.
Seriously?
It's amazing.
Yeah. I would love if you share that.
That would be awesome.
Stick that.
I'm not saying that it's healthy. It's just gluten-free. It's dairy-free, or it can be made dairy-free. We use coconut oil. So, and I think we use
once in a while
blue bag. Yeah, Bob's Red Mill blue bag.
Yeah.
Send it.
What's that smell?
So any other questions or conversation we want to have with Gut Protocol? Otherwise we can shift to Beachbody and BODi.
No, I just dropped a link in the chat to a Freakonomics episode on sugar. And basically there's a war on sugar and how they're talking about how it should be regulated almost like a drug because it is so addictive and it's so like just really not that great for you.
It is not. And it is in everything. And
things you don't even think about.
That's like crazy part. Amounts, right? We are so desensitized now to we want that sweetness factor. And it's like the amount of sugar keeps coming up.
Well, even the amount of the artificial sugars, it's like, oh, here's a diet drink or whatever, and the artificial sugars. Yeah. And that's one of the issues dealing with my brother. He's insulin resistant, and the doctors, forget the doctors here. We need new doctors, but we found on our own that by taking all that out and like him having regular sugar versus diet actually started bringing his numbers down.
Interesting. Yeah, he probably, yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't know how that all makes sense, but in my brain, it makes a lot of sense just because the artificial sweeteners are so much sweeter, like 100 times, 60 times, 1,000 times than regular cane sugar. So then it, you know, I mean, it's like, what does your brain think you're getting? What is your body reacting to? How is that, you know, how are the systems working on these like intensified sweeteners?
Yeah.
Well, and then also the gut's response to the
Right.
artificial sweeteners, you're basically just tearing up your gut microbiome every time you put them in your body,
Yeah.
which then makes you crave more crap and have more issues. So yeah, it totally makes sense. My father has type 2 diabetes. I basically say he ate himself into diabetes, went from pills to insulin, and worked his way up there. So, but yeah, and it was always about how many carbs. It was carb counting. So he was eating like bread that was like a science project because it was, oh, but it has like 2 carbs.
Right.
Okay, but it has like 70 ingredients and like none of them come from Earth.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like anything labeled keto these days. I'm like, no, thanks. I'm good.
but you know, I don't know what I'm talking about. So that's how my life rolls. But yeah, so I think that it sounds like you guys are onto something and you should be like following that train for sure.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I want your thought, like everybody's thoughts on this. First of all, I'm the trader because I was doing Optavia.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of my friends lost like weight real quick on it. And I said, I'm going to do this. They all lost like 30 to 40 pounds in like 4 months. And I just wanted to lose 30. I started in April. So by the end of August, like 4 months, I had lost 20. I figured, okay, this is good. It's working and I'm on it. I haven't lost another pound since then. That's 2 months on a plateau. And I have the scale that measures everything. And it actually looks like when I do gain, I gain fat and lose muscle. And so I'm talking to different people, like in the company, the coaches, and reading. And it sounds like I'm not eating enough. So my body is eating itself instead of burning fat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
And it will eat your muscle and add fat.
Yeah.
Versus
your muscles
versus using the fat.
Why is it burning the muscle instead of the fat if I still have
the
fat?
fat is more the muscle's more useful to your body's survival.
It's got more energy for you.
Yeah. Your body doesn't want to run off fat. It would like to run off carbs first, and then it's going to start taking that protein and muscle and converting it to energy.
Tell me I should add more protein into the diet.
I mean, I can't speak to what they do or how they do it. So, I mean, I couldn't say.
Because I'm only eating between 800 and 1,000 calories.
Yeah, that's just a tiny amount. Like no one should eat that small and actually that's like, you know, whenever there's like a low calorie thing, it's got to be for a short period of time because your body does stop responding to that kind of stuff after 60 days.
Oh.
I mean, that's just the way it is.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same as being in a calorie deficit for too long. Anytime you are in a diet mode, a calorie deficit for too long, your body stops responding to it because it then creates a new level of this is what we're getting. So this is what happens. So it no longer feels like the deficit it did. So that's why when you're taking a path of losing weight, you want to go through some deficits, come back to a maintenance for a little while, go into some deficit, go back to a maintenance, so that your body can still be responsive to the deficits.
Because it just feels like so against the way you think that, like, so to lose weight now, you have to add more food. It just sounds counter.
It does in diet culture, but the things we've talked about on this call is about fueling your body. And if you're giving your body what it needs in good amounts, then it's responsive and it it will, you're able to do workouts, you're able to build muscle, you're able to have all your functions functioning, right? Because right now your body's, on that low of calories after this amount of time is probably like a little scared to get rid of any fat, right? Because it doesn't know what it's going to get the next day. And it's not reacting in the same way you would if you're fueling with your workouts and doing other, just kind of having that combination of things.
So I just should eat more.
Yeah, I mean,
I can tell you,
yeah,
I can speak from my diet culture experience, because I feel like I lived in that for a very long time. And I told myself I couldn't eat more than 1,200 calories a day or I would gain weight. That was my mindset. And what I found was that I would drive 30 minutes and not realize how I got there because I had so much brain fog, or my hair would fall out, or I couldn't even get through a workout because I had no energy, or I couldn't even go on a bike ride. I mean, so I would much rather eat more food and feel more fueled and live a more normal, healthy, happy life than eat in a calorie deficit ever again. It's just something to think about. Like when you think about it and you look in the, like looking back, you're like, oh yeah, maybe that's why I was feeling this, or why this isn't happening, or why the scale isn't moving. I mean, there's so many things that it can impact. So it's just something to think about.
Exactly. And I think you have to figure out what happens when you get to this goal weight, right? Like, how are you going to add it back in and feel good about the food you're eating? And that's kind of where I've always, like, I feel like whatever you're doing, you should get good at doing what you're willing to do for the rest of your life. Not just to lose the weight, not just to change something. When you adopt a lifestyle, it does take a lot of work to create those habits and to bring it in. And right now you're creating a deficit lifestyle, right? So how are you going to feel when you have to add more calories back in? Mentally, that can really mess with you, right? Because you don't want to be like, I can't have this. I can't do this. This is too much food. Because then that's kind of where people then hit the slump and put the weight back on.
Yeah.
They're like,
what they do have with this is once you hit your goal, then they take 6 weeks to go through transition to add stuff back. Like the first week they'll add more vegetables, next week they'll add fruit, then they'll add, so they slowly add it back, and you watch so that until you're hitting your calories in, calories out being equal. So I know that there's a way to do it, but I can't get to the goal so I can do that.
Yeah.
It sounds like I have to go through that transition earlier.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how their program works. I just know how we do things. So it's, I would talk to whoever you're working with about it, because that's kind of where, I mean, that's the program you're doing. So I don't know.
Okay.
And my brother, he was desperate because he's always been, he's 6'3", and he's always had a harder time with the weight, which part of it we're finding now is insulin resistance. He's got testosterone issues and other things, but the doctors still can't figure out everything. But he ended up, somebody's like, oh, my wife or girlfriend went to one of those diet places and they had him down to 500 calories a day.
Yeah.
And we ended up telling my brother, take the loss, because he paid like for a year up front. It's like, stop going. It's screwing you up more than anything. I mean, maybe it was a blessing because that's when he started going and getting tested and they started finding some of these issues out, but it didn't help you. It just hurt you.
Yeah.
So they don't, diet places don't always know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, let's transition into eat more dessert. No.
Yes.
Good.
So, okay. So we didn't talk about this last week, but I wanted to make sure we did talk about it, at some point. So Beachbody is going to be changing their name. That officially happens around March of 2023. And it is all going to become BODi. And part of that, reasoning behind that is just the fact that there is a thought with a beach body, right? That it needs to be a perfect body, that it needs to be a bikini ready body or whatever. But that's really not where this company is headed, how we do things. It's especially not how any of us in here have run our groups and talked about things. It is that you can find health at any body, and it doesn't look the same for everybody, right? It's not like you have to be whatever you feel is whatever the world thinks is bikini ready, right? There's no Victoria's Secret supermodel, contingency to be a beach body. Anyway, so the name will be BODi. And I think what I'm most excited about is you'll probably hear some of us talking about some new terms. The direction of where our products are, where our nutrition plans are, where our workouts are, is all about health esteem. So that is self-esteem plus health. It is about taking care of your body, where you are right now, and recognizing, where you can take care of yourself, how you can take care of yourself, and doing your best to do that so that you can feel your best. So what you'll start seeing come up is that on the BODi platform, eventually all will merge and there will just be one platform. The dates, how that's going to happen, how much it is, that's all to be in the future as we find out. But we do know they're starting what's called BODi blocks. And if you were on our menstrual cycle call last week, you'll know that this fits in amazingly well with the BODi blocks. So BODi blocks are going to be 3 weeks on. You will pick a BODi block. There's going to be different types of BODi blocks. And then there's also going to be super trainer BODi blocks. So Sean T's your fave. He's going to have a BODi block at some time that may reignite an old program of his. I think I saw in there, it might be T25. So it will be like a T25 remix BODi block. It'll be 3 weeks long. And then you'll have a week where you take a deload week, right? You can do some recovery stretching. You can do some lighter type workouts, light impact, however you want to spend that interim week. And then that also coincides with some of the studies that have come out for people who stick with programs long-term, that you're on 3 weeks and you have a week off. On 3 weeks, have a week off. It's like, it just kind of gives you a chance to mix things up, do what you want to do for that week, and then move on to the next block. I've heard rumors they are going to simplify our nutrition plans. I think that's pretty exciting to make them feel accessible. I mean, we talk about that kind of stuff all the time on here. So like we're not the usual group where we get live help with nutrition. There's a lot of people just kind of floating out there, reading it and trying to do it and trying to figure it out. We get to talk through it each week, which is great. But it will be more simplified so that you feel like you can just start right away. Because the most important thing that you can do is just to start taking action, right? You don't have to wait for Monday. You don't have to wait for the new month or the new year. If you're ready to work out, then start working out that day or the next day, right? It's like you just start it. If you're ready for the nutrition plan, watch the video and let's start adding in some veggies and, getting your macros down and things like that. So I think all of that information, all of it will be really great and exciting. And it's just, I don't know, it feels very lined up with how we all talk about things on this call, how our groups are run, and really just focusing on doing things that help you feel your best. Did I miss anything, other coaches? So it'll all come to light as it happens. It's one of those things where it's a very exciting announcement, but we don't know a lot yet. So then eat dessert every day is something that the CEO is talking about. And obviously when he references that, that's Shakeology. So Shakeology is the perfect dessert / snack, meal, whatever you want to make it. And so there's going to be, I think, even more focus on Shakeology recipes so that there's lots of options to try different things. I know there's a lot of times where it's like, just because I've had my shake in the day, I do feel like I've had a dessert, right? I've had a treat. And so then and the way Shakeology is formulated, you don't necessarily have those cravings then further, right? If you've taken out a lot of the sugar in your day, then Shakeology satisfies that. And then you're good to go for the day. So I would expect to see more things like that, recipes in the meal prep class. We will be making a Shakeology dessert. It is the salted chocolate maple pecan bars. I think I got the title right. They look and sound amazing. I just saw somebody else in one of the groups made them too, and they took beautiful pictures and they look amazing. I can't wait. So the whole idea is, I think, I don't know how to phrase it other than it's kind of like living your life, right? On your best terms, on terms where you still get to have delicious things. You still get to have some sweets, but you're also taking care of yourself. And that's really where we're at. Not this all or nothing 6-pack ab type, like we have to be hitting this, before and after, or we have to hit this goal. It's really about having some flexibility and feeling good. So, any add-ins?
Well, you know what was strange? I read your email, and now it's like when you're talking about November being health month, I thought when I was reading it for some reason, I was thinking mental health.
Yeah.
I'm like, mental health. Okay, perfect. I need mental health right now.
Right.
Mental health.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, because there is a new addition to our company. I'm going to get her name wrong. It's Petra Holt. What is it?
I just remember her first name, Petra.
Kolber. I think it's Kolber. It's like Colhber. She is renowned in the fitness industry for mindset. And she is now part of Beachbody, and she will be creating things around mindset, which is we already have really awesome meditations and relaxation things. And Elise is always amazing pretty much in every single video she does at talking you into feeling great. But Petra will be designing things for within BODi to help us with mindset. And so that's pretty exciting too, to have, because it all coincides, right? It's all together.
Yeah, I've noticed that it's like my workouts and even the food and stuff the last how many weeks, it's like I've got so much going on that my head is just like mentally not here. So then I keep telling myself I want to be more involved. And I love this group because everyone's so interactive compared to group that I was in before. But it's like I start pulling away because mentally with my food and my workouts, I'm not where I want to be. So then I start pulling myself away, and it's like, it's not where I want to be.
Right.
So it's like, I'm trying to work on that.
But it's the opposite of what you want. That's the opposite of what you want to do, right? Because that's when you lean into the group even harder.
Yeah.
That's when you show up on a virtual gym, Zoom, right? Or, when you're coming to the calls, when you're engaging in the group, when you're engaging in the chat, you just feel so much better. I don't know that anybody's truly where they think they should be or want to be all the time, right? We all have aspirations in different areas of our life. And it's like, we want to be at that place, but it's okay to be like, this is where I am right now. And I'm just going to lean into this and work on it. Right. Cause it was funny because another coach I was listening to the other day, she talked about, when you have these moments of not feeling good enough and you do pull away, it's like the worst thing you can do for yourself, because you take yourself out of that good space and you take yourself away from the things that are helping you. And so it's like it intensifies it even more.
Well, with me, it kind of goes back to my whole life. I always was a go-getter and I worked hard, but I've literally had like pretty much everybody in my life. I could be perfect in something, but it's you can't be better than me. So it's like, you're not going to amount to nothing. Don't think about going to school for that. You're not going to accomplish school. You suck. Or even in the working world, big problem I'm having right now, and it was brought to my attention, is I know what I'm doing. I can do the job, and people are threatened of me. So nobody wants, so like in our industry, people don't want to hire me because I outshine them. So they
Right.
don't want me around so they can keep getting the work. So it's like, it's all this stuff. And it just, when one thing builds on another, it makes it very hard. And even though I keep trying to bring myself back to where I am, but it's, you know, it's getting hard. It gets hard. So then I start pulling away and I try not to.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, I'm exhausted, but I'm going to show up for the call today. I'm trying to force myself to get back to it. But then, you know, you get all that from, you know, everybody else ever in my life. So it's like, it's trying to change that when you've had it for too many years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, it feels hard to lean into it. It
Mhm.
does, because it's like all you want to do is something else, because it's like you feel like you're protecting yourself.
And I think where it is too, and it's trying to get out of that mindset that not everybody is like that. But then, you know, when you start leaning into people and then more people have done the same thing to me, it gets harder. And
Yeah.
even though I know, so it's like, it's that ricochet effect.
Yep.
So I love this group though.
Well, we're happy to have you. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's funny because we joke all the time that this is like therapy on here, because it's like, I mean, but that's what it's about. Just being able to talk about these things and talk it through. It helps so much rather than thinking about it yourself, or you hear different perspectives, and maybe it, you know, turns a light bulb and you're like, oh yeah, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
And that's what our coaching life is all about, right? I mean, that's what it's all been about.
So I just finished a book tonight that I would definitely recommend. It is called Soundtracks by John Acuff.
Oh yes, it's very good. Yep. A bunch of us have been listening to it.
So I'm listening to it. In full disclosure, I'm not actually physically reading it, and it's, oh my gosh, he's fantastic as a narrator of his own books, especially because when you listen to them, he'll go off the script and tell you like other stories, which is really fantastic. So I definitely recommend, and you can, if you have like a library card and your library uses Hoopla, you can get the audiobook, you can rent it for free, which is really nice. But it's just such a fantastic book. And he talks a lot about like the internal conversations that we have and the things that we say to ourselves. And it's been really interesting to hear like the different soundtracks that people have and the things that they say to themselves and how we can like swap those out. And one of the things in the book that he talks about is this one person, I don't remember her name, but for every one bad thing that you say about yourself or that you say about a situation, you want to find 3 good things that happen in the day to counterbalance that. And I would just encourage, if you haven't checked out that book, I definitely recommend it. It was definitely a read I didn't know I needed, but it's fantastic.
Aren't those great? I felt that about The Gap and the Gain. It like I got into that one and I was like, oh my goodness, I really needed to hear this.
I have to check it out.
Yeah. Soundtracks has been great. I know Kim started reading it and started sending it around to all of us, and I
read it
like halfway through right now. Thank you, Mariana.
Yes.
You're welcome. You can count on me for some type of book recommendation.
Right? I love that. Well, I don't want to keep us too far over here. So is there any last minute, anything?
I thought it was interesting what came out about the Shakeology, that you could heat it up and that it wouldn't, you could heat it up and it would retain the protein and the fiber, I think was the other thing that they said. So up to 350 degrees, I believe, for like 30 or 35 minutes. So basically you can bake with it, but they didn't state how it would affect the other ingredients like the superfoods and the blends and stuff.
They're not going to make
if you don't care about those, then you can bake with it, I guess. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty expensive baking powder. So I think you'd probably just want to use it in limited if you wanted to try something. But like what the recipe we'll be doing with a meal prep, that is going to be at room temperature the whole time. So, there's a lot like that too, that are either room temperature, refrigerated type stuff, so that you can still get the benefits of most of what's in there. I don't know. Some of the pre and probiotic stuff I don't know what happens after 30 minutes. But you know what I mean? So things like that, there might not be as much of a benefit, but.
Will the meal prep be gut protocol approved, or is it just going to be a free for all?
I don't know yet, because I actually haven't fully planned it. I know this dessert we're having, and I think we're going to have some curried carrots because they just sound really delicious. And it might be a nice side dish option, but I do have another recipe on there that has some pasta and some breadcrumbs. So I don't know.
No pressure either way. I was just curious. No, I was just curious.
So yeah, I'm still kind of working my way through it. I do need to find a protein. I had a Moroccan chicken, but it does have preserved lemons and saffron, and that might be a little tricky for everybody. So I didn't want to necessarily go into that right away. So it sounds amazing, but I think I'll pick something that has a little more simple ingredients, so everybody doesn't have to go on Amazon to get a jar of preserved lemons. Or make your own.
Well, the saffron is,
which take 3 weeks.
Yeah, but the saffron is what's gonna,
Everyone be careful
be the
over
kicker.
Halloween. Don't eat all the Halloween candy you buy to give out.
We're skipping it.
We don't buy it.
We're not doing it.
Yeah, I don't eat any of it because I don't know. I'd rather have like dark chocolate, and all that stuff's milk chocolate.
I can't afford to buy it because I'll eat it all. So.
My husband usually eats it, so he's gonna buy it the last minute.
Shaco in your coffee, I think it depends on how hot coffee is.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
if it's
you could, because it's less than 350 likely. I think most coffee is brewed at 180 to 200 if it's straight out of your coffee maker. But then by the time it hits the cup, you're already losing heat.
But you're going to lose the prebiotics, probiotics, and digestive enzymes.
You will lose some things in it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think they're unclear on exactly which things don't survive. It was more about the protein and the fiber that survives on that article. So it's not, there's a lot in there, right? I think we have 70 ingredients ish. Yeah.
Yeah. They just said it may affect the other ingredients that very broad. So
cool. No,
yeah.
that's cool.
I put chocolate in my, coffee.
Do you? I've always just heard we're not supposed to heat it, so I never have.
No, before they said you could heat it to 117 degrees and it wouldn't affect it at all. But now they're actually coming out and saying that you can bake with it actually. So
well, you have to think like how.
What? Who's talking?
Everly.
Well, Lily was saying something, so I stopped.
Oh.
Go.
Oh, okay. Well, so you have to really think about like how hot your gut is, like how hot your stomach at, like what temperature is your stomach at. So it'll survive that temperature, but at what point past that? Like I'm talking like the prebiotics, probiotics, and digestive enzymes, because those are really the active live ingredients. So, but the rest of the stuff should sustain fine. I think that's always been the way that it's been.
Yeah, I don't use it as my Shaco though. I use it as a creamer instead. So yeah, I still have my full scoop of Shakeology, whatever other flavor I'm gonna have. There's no way I'm giving.
Maybe I should try. I should try some vanilla chai in with my matcha latte.
Ooh,
that sounds delicious. Okay, thanks for the idea.
I did vanilla in my matcha latte yesterday. It was good.
Oh, okay.
Apricots today, and it was so good. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Apricots and chai. Oh,
yeah,
it's yummy.
I'm telling you, peaches and vanilla chai. It's a peach pie. It's amazing. Yeah.
Peaches and vanilla chai. Okay, I'm gonna have to keep that in mind.
And I put a little more cinnamon in.
Okay. I'm gonna have to get some peaches. Actually, I think I might have some peaches frozen somewhere.
Perfect. All right. We're
All right.
late. So let's see. I think meal prep class is the 13th. I'll take a picture. Okay, everybody gets smiley.
Marianne, where's your picture?
You want to come on?
do.
Okay, we'll take a picture of your name.
Stuff to go. Yeah. I'm here in spirit, friends.
Very nice. Okay,
right.
and tomorrow is wear your costume or anything
Orange or black,
colored or whatever.
green, purple.
However you're celebrating your Halloween in your workout gear. All right, and we'll see y'all in the group. If there's anything you want to talk about with reintroduction or any of that kind of stuff, then we'll just put it in the chat and carry on. Everybody have a great night.
You too.
You too. Thanks,
Good.
friends.
Bye.